Welcome. These sessions will be recorded. I'm pleased you could join us for the Business Education and Resilience webinars with 1917. My name is Pauline Marquardt. I am the Executive Director of the Greater Bowie Chamber of Commerce, which is made up of members with common interests and concerns related to the business environment in the Bowie area. It is the primary professional trade organization in the Greater Bowie area dedicated to the protection, enhancement, and success of businesses in the Bowie community. The Bowie COVID-19 Business Recovery Assistance Program delivers online technical assistance to help Bowie businesses accelerate their post-pandemic economic recovery. This program is a collaboration between the Greater Bowie Chamber of Commerce and the Bowie Business Innovation Center Business Accelerator and funded by the City of Bowie. During this webinar, it is best to be comfortable with your video on. Remember to mute yourself. Please ask questions through the chat unless otherwise directed. Welcome, William Eric Lindsay. He is our Senior Business Counselor at 1917.
Good evening. How's everyone doing? All right. So tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about exiting your business. And I just want to say welcome to everyone. Glad you're here. And as my screen pops up, it takes a minute for that to happen. All right. Can everyone see my screen now? That means yes. That means no. All right. So before we get into the actual presentation, we just want to talk a little bit about the business education and resiliency webinars that Pauline mentioned. First, I want to say thank you, Pauline, and to the Greater Bowie Chamber of Commerce for selecting me and my company to sort of do this for you. It's a great pleasure to present these concepts in a team environment, an interactive environment. So this has been fun. This has been really fun for me, and I'm sure a lot of the attendees from the feedback that we received so far, and very educational as well. So just a little bit about the education and resilience webinars. Let's see. Can you guys see my screen by chance? You're muted. All right, let me just.
It looks like it might be frozen.
Okay. How about, let's see, we're having a little bit of how about that now? Is that better?
Correct. We see page 1 and your mouse is moving.
Okay, cool. All right. So just a little bit about here, let me just do this real quick, and then I will reshare the screen. How about just to be sure that everyone can see it? Let's see.
That's much better.
Okay, great. So these things happen when you go live. This is a 2-section, 12-part webinar series. So we have total of 24 webinars. This is session 11. So next week is going to be our last session for this particular section, our first section. So what we've done is we created a programmatic approach where one webinar builds upon the other. So we started in session 1 with goal setting. How do we set our goals? And then we went right through into, we sort of escalated each webinar. So we talked about financial literacy, business planning. We talked a lot about financial. We had 2 webinars on financial literacy. We talked about the PPP and the EIDL program. We talked about sales and marketing last week and how to really get some great tips on sales and marketing. So those are things that we talked about. We're working towards July 15th. Which is after the second section of this 24 webinar session. So obviously we're doing a pitch your business competition, which we're going to talk a little bit about next week. We have some really cool prizes for the first place winner and all the winners in that pitch competition. It's some really cool prizes that will help grow your business. So one of the things I'll ask you to do tonight is just to sign up and come to all of our webinars. Okay. So with that, let's go ahead and get into the webinar. So tonight we're going to be talking about how to finish your business and exit your business. It's not what you think. It's a little bit of details in here that we're going to get into. And again, this is an interactive session. So if you have any questions, you have any comments, you have any, any kind of ideas, please, unmute, or you can check, Pauline's gonna check the chat for me as you can type your questions in the chat. So with that, let's go into it. So finishing and exiting your business, what is really meant by finishing? That's what we're going to talk about. What is meant by finishing your business? We're also going to talk really about some steps towards finishing your business. We're going to talk a little bit about before you exit, some things that as business owners you should do, and then we're going to get into some exit strategies, some more of the common exit strategies that are well known out there. So what do I mean when I say finish your business? Well, one of the first things that we talked about in this section, in this first section, this webinar series, was your goals. Everyone had a goal in that webinar. They all had a goal. Even the chamber had a goal. The goal of the chamber is to improve and then actually grow the chamber by 5%, which means 5% more members, 5% more revenue, 5% more offerings in those situations. So everyone had a goal. I have my business goals as well. And some of those goals, they relate to, wherever you start your business, it's got to come to some point in time in the future. So we're talking about building your future. So you starting your business started with a reason. You started your business because of an expertise, and you want to make money. You want to expand your growth. You want to build your business. You want to serve your clients. You want to make money. But will you be doing that for the rest of your life? That's up to you. You can answer that how you're comfortable with and how you think about it. But do you want to be in your business all of your life? Is there something you want to do 10 years from now? What's your 10-year plan? 20 years from now? What does your business look like in the end? And that's why you start creating your business plan. Your business plan is so important to create because a lot of times we never start with the end in mind when it comes to our business. We always kind of start with the short-term goal. My first year or my second year or my third year, I have to make it, because as you know, the industry standards are like within 3 to 5 years, most startups they fail. Well, we're working towards that particular benchmark. We want to surpass that particular time frame. So we're so focused on building our business and focus our business plan towards that time frame. So you definitely want to create that business plan with the long-term point in mind. How do you want to, what is this business going to look like when it ends for you? Then you started your business. And right now, most of you are definitely in business already. So you started your business, you're working hard every day, you're getting clients, updating your systems, looking at financials, setting and resetting your goals. Sometimes your goals change and you're in it. You're actually in your business, okay? At some point, you definitely want to hire other people to run the business for you. You want to grow your company so that you end up having a general manager for your company. That's something that you certainly want to have. You certainly want to grow to. Okay. Once you've hired other people and your business has a certain flow, there's a certain rhythm and flow and smoothness to your business, notwithstanding the hiccups here or there. We had a huge hiccup last year, and that's spilling into this year with the current pandemic. That's a major hiccup because you have to do some pivoting. You definitely want to have your company running a little bit what's called cruise control. You're obviously in charge because you have your operations, you're building your business equity, you're improving your valuation, you're improving your employment practices. It's running on some kind of cruise control. That's a little bit of a success story in a very simple way, right? But you really haven't finished your business. It's not done yet because you got into it for yourself. You got into it for a reason. If you see yourself in this business forever, so be it. But what forever also has a time limit. So what does that look like in the end? So now what? Now that you started with a reason, you have a goal, you wrote your business plan, start your business plan. You have people, running your company for you. You have general managers, you have different positions in your company. Business is running smooth. You can call that success. All right, now what? Now what are you going to do? So before you exit, before you start asking your questions, what is it that I'm going to do? How am I going to get this done? And again, this is an interactive session. So I really want to dive deep with each and every single one of you to start answering some questions, and we can walk this through, because this is what this session is really about, is to start planning your exit. Exiting your business as a business owner is an extremely personal question. Okay, it's a tough decision to make, because a lot of people, and I've found with a lot of the business owners I work with, it's their baby. This is my creation. You know, our ego gets in the way in that, because this is mine. I know how to run it. I know. We start to use the word I know, and we don't want to let go. So sometimes you have to separate yourself from that reality and actually looking at what's in it for you. What do you get out of your own company? It's not a job, but what do you get out of it? So it's an extremely personal decision to take a minute and think about that, write some notes down, and what are you going to do in the next phase of your business ownership life? So obviously over those years, and even now, you have so many trusted advisors. You have a lot of people that you work with, a lot of people you trust. It could be your family and other business owners that you work with, your lawyer, definitely your CPA, your tax accountant, your business banker, your business coach, your chamber partners, your executive director, or your president of the chamber, or the board of the chamber, the people that you are very, very close to, your family, your spouse, whoever you're with in your life, that you can have these conversations with, because it is that kind of question you have to ask yourself. And other people you can consult. You know, your spiritual advisor, for example, if you go to church, that might be someone that you'll talk to as well. So there's a lot of research out there you can look into in terms of who you could talk to. And the thing that you want to talk to them about is, you know, being open to that conversation. And you can start that conversation after this webinar, because those are questions that we don't have the answers to right now. But these are questions that you definitely want to have set up over time, so that at least you know what's coming and ready for you down the road. Sometimes when we start, like, remember when each of us had a job, one of the first things that, and a lot of companies don't do this, but I think they should start doing this, is on day one of a new employee orientation, take them through a retirement class. You know, some companies do it, but you take your employees through day one, a retirement class, and say, okay, if you want to retire over a certain period of time, this is what your retirement number should look like. And I'm using the word retire. I don't like that word. I personally, I just like the word your next phase of what you're going to do with your life, your next life career phase. So think of it in those terms. You started your business, you know, from day one. What is that number going to be when you build your business to a point where your business can run on its own? And then boom, you can transition and do a transformation into the next phase of your life. You know, start now. If you haven't done it yet, start now. And probably another person you should talk to is not just your CPA tax accountant. It's probably someone who you have an insurance relationship with. That's someone that you can definitely talk to. So you want to plan your exit now. Now, the way you do it, obviously, is you refer to your business plan. You know, we go back to the business plan. I always go back to the business plan, because your business plan needs to be updated, you know, at a minimum once a year, depending on the size of your company, depending on how many changes you have. At a minimum, just do that. And go back to your business plan and start with the end in mind. Start with a separate category called your exit strategy. You know, and again, this is just a phase. So you definitely want to just have a free flow of what your ideas of what you exiting your company is going to feel for you and it's going to look like for you, right? What are some of the things you'd like to do after you've gone through this phase of your career and of your life? You know, you built your company, now what, right? What are those things that you want to get involved in? So again, this is interactive. I will be asking each of you questions, and we're going to get into it. So now, just a few business tactics, a few things that you can consider in terms of what after you've gone through all that process, after you've gone all that exit planning. And again, I think I mentioned it, but you definitely want to have your insurance person, your life insurance or policy person involved in this conversation. What are some of your options once you're done with your business? What are some of your exit tactics? Not necessarily the strategy, but the how to. So one of the things that come to mind is you can remain within your company and you can continue to be the leader full time. That could be an exit strategy. This one pretty much says you don't leave, but you can have a leadership role in the company. What that leadership role looks like, it's how you want it to look like. It's how you write it. It's going to change, obviously, but you remain with the company. Another 180 degrees to that particular option is to sell your company. Just go ahead and sell your company 100%.
Mhm.
Remember, we talked about building valuation and business equity and things like that. Go ahead and sell your company. Find out what's the value of your company, and go ahead and sell it. Sell 100%. Walk away from it. Give it up, and walk away with a hefty check. Now, does that option match the alignment of what you're doing in the long term? It might not. Depends on your business. Depends on the valuation of your company. It depends on who gives you a really great offer for that company. Another option is to sell a portion of your company. So you can become a majority owner of your company. You can own 50 plus 1% or 50.01% of your company. You can become a majority owner. And then you can actually bring in an investor to purchase the other part of the company. Or you can actually do it the other way around. You can become a minority partner in your company. You own 49% or less of your company. So so essentially you're having other people invest in your company, but you can either have majority ownership or become a minority partner. And those two things obviously need a lot of legal assistance with that, your business attorney, to set that up for you and what that looks like. Do you want a yearly dividend check, for example, or do you want a quarterly dividend check, or do you want a combination of a quarterly? Do you want a combination of your dividend check, maybe 50% of your dividend check, and then 50% of that dividend check before it gets out goes back into the company to reinvest into the assets of the company or the operations of the company or the growth of the company? There's a lot of ways to do this. So you really want to sit with a lawyer and a strategist to really sit down and figure out, again, what does your end game look like and which tactic fits best your end game from a financial and numbers perspective, right? How are you aligned with that end game? And again, I wonder if I'm going to ask this question. I wonder how many of you kind of feel like, no, I'm not going to leave my company. I'm not going to sell my company. Well, if you feel that, that's your ego. You got to let that go. You really got to let that go sometimes, because we're talking about your future. And again, it's okay. We're not just talking about this is the end game. This is more like your next phase. Could you start another business? Sure. Why not? What's stopping you from doing that? As far as I'm concerned, your options are wide open. It all depends on how you map out your future possibilities and what you can do with your company now to create and sustain that possibility in the end. Another option you can look at is you can retire from your company. Even though you're an owner, you can talk about retiring from your company and receive a retirement check from your company. Nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. It's a dividend check. It's a retirement. If you built a large enough company to sustain that, the revenues and your 401k, you can retire from your own company. Nothing wrong with that. It's an option. Now, how that works, you have to have a 401k program or retirement income program. You can even restructure your company, which is interesting. I'm seeing more and more a lot of companies who are either being created as a co-op. So you have multiple business owners, who are equal in that sense in terms of ownership and in terms of investment level. For example, there's a co-op option there as well. And there's ways to exit those companies as well. And they're pretty much along the same line. But these, again, these are just a few. Or you can just leave your company outright and become an advisor to your own company. Have your, leave your company, you either retire or you've sold the company and your own company hires you back as an advisor or even a consultant to your own company. Because remember, you built your company to run on its own. You have a general manager, you have leadership in your company that can run the company for you. That's an option that you can certainly consider. You can certainly say, hey, I don't want to leave my company, but I love what I do, but I'll manage my own time. I'll manage, how I want to fit what I want to do in a day to day. I don't want to do this every day, but I'll just work 10 hours a week or maybe 20 hours a month and then consult my own company if anything comes up. And this sometimes works, especially in the scientific field, where you built your company and you have that really sound and profound science degree. And you're like, hey, my company is running on its own, but they may need someone to be the face of the company. And I can just do that maybe 10 hours a month and still talk about the science of the company. I know some business owners who've done that before, who actually created instrumentations for environmental analysis and data collection. And they built the company, designed it, built pretty much a global company, and it's running its own. And they actually represent, well, when you could go face to face, they actually represent the company at major conferences, and they talk about what the company is doing and how the history of the company. So there's a lot of ways you can actually do these exit strategies. Now, remember, you don't have to do one. You can actually combine different strategies and different tactics to fit your goal, to fit what you would like to do. And again, the people that you need to talk to are like your CPA to get this done on paper. You get your own business lawyer, for example, outside of your company, preferably, so that they have an unbiased eye not from within. So obviously from outside the company, that they have your personal interest in heart in terms of looking at it from that perspective. So another tactic might be, and again, all of this requires, like I said, a formal structure. Your business plan will guide you. Your formal structure will guide you, and document everything. That's so important, is to document. And over time, if you start now, over time, your concepts will change. Your feelings will change. The economy will change. The market will change. And that has an impact on your timeline for exiting your company. So you certainly want to be able to shift, and you certainly want to be able to pivot in many different ways when it comes to this. Could you start another company? Sure, why not? Maybe in a different field. It's possible, Could you do something totally different? Yeah, sure. It's up to you. You just have to know what you're doing and how that's going to be sustainable over time. So are there any questions so far, or any comments on this? This is where I start picking on people. We're gonna get into it now. So, all right, any questions?
I'm sorry I was late. It's Marianne.
Hey, Marianne.
Do we call you William? What am I supposed to call?
William is fine.
Well, I missed your introduction, so I don't know how you go. William.
No problem. Yes, that's fine.
Hi, William. This is really excellent. I am an advisor to small businesses, and I have one business owner that is actually doing several of the things that you talked about. He brought in sold a portion. He's thinking about what he's trying to build up the business. He's going to sell it. He's talking about maybe he'd like to get dividends when he goes. And so I can see a lot of things there. And I have another client that has a dog grooming business, and he says, well, sure, I'll sell it. They'll pay me for 3 years over the value of but document, and you need a team. And I think they end that part with me. So I need to find them actual team members to
Mhm.
guide them and advise them the right way. But this is excellent stuff.
No,
Excellent.
thank you, Mary. I appreciate that. And I'm glad that your client that you're working with is actually putting these in place. It is so important. And again, you mentioned that team part. Earlier, I don't know if you heard me earlier, but earlier I was talking about, let's see if I can go back. Let's take a look.
I came in on 4.
Oh, okay. So you did see some of it. Let's take a look. Yeah,
Yep,
you
right
definitely,
there.
yep,
I
you
have it.
yep, yep.
And they're
So you
all
did,
different people. They're all different people, but
Yep.
they all need to know about each other. And
Yes,
and they really do need to work together for their benefit. So
100%, 100%. And it's not. This is why I always emphasize starting, like with a lot of businesses, like in the startup phase or even not so much the pre-venture, when they're actually in business, when they're writing their business plan and actually have launched their business. It's always good to have that conversation at that moment, because that's part of their business plan. Their exit strategy is definitely a huge part of their business plan. I've read so many business plans, and that's the one thing that's commonly not in any business plan is the exit strategy. And I always encourage people, all right, why don't we sit down? What is it going to look like in 10 years? What is your business going to look like in 10 years? All right, well, let's create an organizational structure that when your business is completed, what it would look like when it will be completed. So what does that organizational structure look like? Who are your team members that you need to support your company in 10 years that you're building towards to on a year-to-year basis? And those are all people part of that. Those are all people part of your on the team. And that's so important to have, in terms of moving through the hard part of growing your business. So thank you, Marianne, for sharing that. Is there anyone else who has a question or comment?
Yeah, and one question, could you do like a combination? Like, if you wanted to maybe become a minority partner, but also want to be an advisor, or something, or do you have to pick like one or the other?
No, it's up to you. The beauty about doing this is it's actually how you would like to set it up. If you're building your company and you're like, you know what, like what Marianne just shared, it's okay. I want to have dividends. Then I want to be an advisor to my company, and I want to just be the face of the company for 5 hours a month, and then you can put a value on each of those activities. And this is why it's so important to plan, because once you start putting values on that, it's sort of like what are the tax implications of each? What is the revenue implications of each on your company? How flexible those programs are, and it's think of it as a three-dimensional matrix in terms of where would you place your effort for the best value for you and your goal. Everything has to be aligned. And let's say you want more cash out of the company up front to start your business. Well, okay, or start something else. Those are things you have to think about. So you can do a multitude of things. I look at it like this. If nothing is done until you negotiate and sign the contract, you can negotiate anything, but it doesn't mean anything until everyone agrees, until you go through the process, meeting of the minds, and all that contract process. And then everyone agrees, and then you sign, and then there it is.
Cool.
what's excellent about your program is that you're sharing with us the many options, because we have no idea what options are out there. And so by sharing all of this with us, and also for us to consider what we're looking for and then put a dollar value on it. I've never heard anybody say that before. That's very interesting. Right?
Oh, thank you.
Very interesting.
No, I appreciate that. And that's kind of how that's it's just a different perspective. And this is why it's so important to have, some really strong people on your team, is to really to think of things differently. I think, Charles, you're in the engineering company. So, 20 years from now, when you're getting to ready to retire, what do you want to do? You know, write those things down, like, you know, between now and the next webinar series, you know, write it down and just update your business plan. It's a personal thing. And then talk to someone about it. Just say, you're not talking to someone about it to validate what you're saying. You're just trying to get ideas. You're just trying to get ideas. Because remember, in 2019, no one knew a pandemic. Well, no one could foresee this pandemic coming,
Mhm.
right? Okay, now that it happened, trust me, everyone's goals have changed. Financial goals especially have changed. Financial strategies have changed. Your exit strategy needs to change as well. So that means, how do you look at risk? Again, you go back to your business plan. Your business plan should address risk. So how do you look at risk based on now your new exit strategy? You know, are you more risk averse? You know, or are you much more of a risk taker now? Are you looking at expediting your plan? You know, are you looking at your health? You're looking at everything. So again, in your business plan, that's part of your SWOT. So go back and redo your SWOT, you know, and then do your personal SWOT. And this is why I say, at a minimum, 1 year, at least one time a year, at a minimum, redo the business plan, or not redo, but update your business plan in all those sections in your business plan. So Katina, I think you're off mute. You have any questions or comments?
Yeah, so I'm at the point where I'm definitely going to dissolve my company. So as far as like financially, how can I like fundraise to help me get over the hump of, you know, all the expenses that come with ending your company? You have any advice on that?
Let's see. Would you give me a little bit more information? What kind of company do you have? If
So
you
it's a
don't mind.
No, it's fine. It's a transportation company that I am dissolving my relationship with the client.
Okay.
And so I have various things that I want to make sure that I can cover, you know, expenses that we can cover, but still be able to walk away with some cash as well, so that it's not, you know, getting rid of everything.
Okay. So I'm not going to give you direct advice because there's a
Sure.
lot there, but I will, if you don't mind, could I just share with you a couple of thoughts that came to mind?
Yes.
All right. So I would actually start looking at your time frame. You know, I don't know if you're going to sell your company tomorrow or in 5 years, or dissolve it in 2 years or in 1 year. You want to look at your time frame. Then you want to understand, okay, well, how much money do I want to walk away from this relationship? You know, I'm dissolving my company. Well, how much I'm going to walk away? So you obviously have to talk to your financial folks and
Right.
say, what does your equity look like? Okay, what's your current equity in the company? Now, here's an interesting question for you, and you don't have to answer it, but just think about it. Let's just say, after you go all through this exercise, right? Let's say your business, your company equity, you walk away with $100,000. I want you to think, just think about this for a minute. What would happen if you kept your business open for another year and you built your equity and you improved operations where your business valuation increases so your equity can increase? You have to ask yourself, is that worth it? You have to ask yourself, is this possible? And you have to ask yourself, could I wait a year and work hard to improve, going from $100,000 to $100,000 plus X in my pocket? Is that worth it? And what number do you want to leave with? So there's so many questions you have to ask yourself in that regard. I would probably ask you those questions like I'm asking now, and really create a solid plan and just see where your heart and head is, and then take it to that step. And again, it all depends on your time frame. If you have to make a decision tomorrow, yeah, that's a different situation. If you have some time, whatever some time means, you have time, maybe a month to think about it, a year to think about it. Those are some questions you definitely want to ask yourself, and then you definitely want to take yourself through that process and go and experience what you could experience. Did that help in any way?
Yeah, it helped.
I think you have another question. I can sense it.
Yeah, I mean, no, that helped. I'm just looking to, yeah. So it's like, if I decide to exit, I want to have something, a package that I can like maybe give to my employees. So I'm just thinking like outside of that too, like how do
Yeah.
I, you know, start saving so I could do something like that for the employees to give them like a, small companies, we don't have anything to give a whole bunch of people for severance packages, but you have some employees that you feel are very loyal and they do a good job. So um just looking for planning financially that way to exit the business.
Yeah, I'm sure you're working with a CPA or a financial
Yes.
person. Yep,
Yes.
those are the questions you want to ask. And again, that that would be counted against your cash flow, for example. So if you're trying to create a severance package for your employees, then your numbers would change in terms of what you will depart your company with or dissolve the company.
Right.
Once you get rid of your debtor, the people that you owe money to, what's all those expenses are paid, once you do your paper filing work, what's the number you walk away with to ensure that your employees are also covered? And then there's a legal question. If you're dissolving your company, there's some legal questions in there. What kind of employees do you have? What is the legal requirement for severance pay, depending on, I guess, how long they've been working for your company? There's a calculation. There's a formula there. And a business lawyer, maybe even your tax person will definitely help you with that. And some research can help you with that as well. So you certainly want to make sure that you have your bases covered. Now, ask yourself that question. What if I kept my company open for a year and I improved valuation and equity and built operations, and if I can double that equity, would it be worth it for you? I don't know. Those are things that you have to ask yourself.
Okay, fair enough.
All right. Any questions in the chat box, Polly?
Yeah, there are. I raised my
Okay.
hand. I don't know if you can see it up in the
Oh,
corner.
I didn't notice it. Sorry.
Okay, I have a few things going on here. So one of the questions that was asked was, how do we find our members, and how do we vet those team members?
Okay. So let me start with the first part. How do we find them? I would probably look internal. What do you need? Obviously in a situation like this, you need from a structural perspective, you definitely need some sort of attorney, obviously a CPA or a tax person, an insurance person, for example. So you can list out, what exactly do you need? Now for let's say a construction company, for example. Let's say if you had assets, you may want to start looking at other companies that may want to buy your assets once you dissolve your company. So, look at your strategic planning and say, okay, well, I'm going to dissolve my company. I may have to sell some assets. Well, who out there would want to buy those assets? So you may want to start doing some research in that area. Now, that's the identification process. Now, how you vet them, I think that was the other question, Pauline.
Well, I think so. I would
Okay.
say, if I may add to vetting your team members, and finding them, it's talking to people, networking, finding who Eric Lindsay's working with or who Charles is working with, and do they like them? Because a lot of times what you might get from people is, I can tell you what not to do,
Right.
but I can't always tell you what to do. And that's what's so great about a business coach, is that they're a little bit better in telling you what is good to do. And then always the Chamber of Commerce. I mean, we have lists and lists of people. And I know for myself, if I don't say anything about somebody, that's usually, or their business, it's usually a reflection. If I want to be careful how I phrase that. But yeah, so usually my silence is golden for interpretation, because I never want to say anything bad about somebody. But you can always call a Chamber of Commerce and ask them who their preferred members are.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And sometimes when you want to vet someone, it starts with you. You're the one who are bringing those individuals into your inner circle. Let's just call it that, for example. Just so imagine your inner circle.
Yeah.
So imagine who would you bring into your house? What kind of people would you bring into your home, your safe space, for example? Your place of rest and peace. It doesn't matter if it's a business lawyer or whomever, it's just the individual now. So I would take it to that level as well. Someone that you can actually trust, someone that's resourceful in that sense, and that you can actually feel comfortable in opening up to and having that really deep conversation and having that person give you unbiased, honest answers. Not the answer that you're looking for, but honest answers, honest options for you. You may not like the message, but it's not about the messenger. You may not like the message, but the message is sometimes good for you to hear, no matter where you are. And again, you have to be open. You really have to be open to hearing those type of things, and just making considerations on what someone is saying. Again, the final decision is up to you, but you want to have an intellectual conversation, and one that's not only intellectual, but it's fact gathering in that sense. So someone that you trust, someone that you can connect with, those type of people, those kind of traits, the traits that are important for you. And if you don't mind, I can definitely share one question. I'll just share one question that you could probably ask someone, because a lot of people, okay, let me pick on something. Marianne, if you're looking for someone to vet, what would be the qualities that you're looking for on your team? Or anyone can answer.
So I like to try and do a little bit of research. So now, granted, I'm not going to be the expert on it. That's why I'm going to find a team member who knows more than me, right? And kind of ask a few questions that maybe I know the answer to, maybe I would like to see how they explain it for me.
Okay.
And if that just comes comfortably and naturally, I'll be honest, I'm really struggling with this whole vetting thing. Pauline, thank you very much for go to the Chamber of Commerce. We have a lot of people. Okay. But then I think I interviewed an attorney once, and having just a little bit of legal knowledge, I said, well, what if we do this? And she goes, oh, well, you can't do that. And she just kind of shut me all the way down. I was like, I know you can do that. Why would she tell me no? You can't. And I thought, well, clearly this gal is not the right one, because I think I know more than her. And so we ended up leaving. And I said, so as an attorney, I said, so tell me, what should I look for? And she says, it's all about the fit and the feel, is what she said. And that is what I took from that meeting, is the fit and the feel. And here you are saying, who am I bringing into my home? Right. So so that's the whole vetting thing. You talk to them. If they sound like they know what they're talking, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a great example, Mary. I appreciate it. Katina, you're going to say something?
You're going to start with vetting someone that their values align with yours. If their values don't align with yours and the way you want your business to grow, then they're not going to be valuable to you.
So what would be a value? What would be one value if that comes to mind for you?
So of course, you're going to want to, they're going to have to be an expert in the field that you're looking for. So if it is an attorney, they're going to have to be an expert in that. But they're going to have to figure out how to fix your problem that aligns with your values.
Right. So that's actually expertise. So that's more professionalism. So would you say morality and trust is a value that everyone's looking for on their team?
I'm not.
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
I want to trust you.
Right. So trust is a value that you would.
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm leading to is the question is, well, how do you meet someone new, and you can try to figure out that trust, or maybe where they stand. I think Marianne actually alluded to it. The question that I ask a lot of people, without them knowing, obviously, is I try to look for and here's the question. So I would ask them this question. So I would say, if you were placed in a position, let's just say one of your clients put you in a position, in a compromising position, how would you handle that? And based on their answer, you can actually gauge if this person is trustworthy, they have a little bit, they have some morality, there's some ethic there. Because when you're placed in a compromising position in your company, you have to make a quick decision. You cannot, your core of who you are comes to the surface in your decision-making process. Some people might say, yeah, it was a compromising decision, but you know what? I went with it anyway. You're like, okay, that's a red flag. And then you may want to dig deeper or just walk away. Or you may want to hear the answer and says, someone might answer you and say, you know what? I will never compromise rest of sentence. So you really want to be clear in how you ask the question. And you really want to understand what are the values that are meaningful to you, like your top 5 values, because expertise really isn't a value. It's more just an expertise. Now, if you want to test someone in their expertise, that's a little bit different. It's not experience, by the way, because I know a lot of people who have 10, 15, 20 years of experience, but they do the same thing year for year, the exact same thing. So they have 1 year of experience doing it 20 years, 20 times. So their expertise, you may want to ask a question on, a very client specific question. It says, hey, tell me your story about a time that your client had a difficult moment, and what did you do to get them out of that moment? And you listen for key words, you listen for certain things in terms of that's how their expertise shows up. What did they do with the client? What did I do with my client to get them from point A to point X? I would take you through that story very specifically, and this is what I did. And so you get a story, you get a narrative. And that's how you can actually gauge very quickly, without getting referrals. Those are 2 questions you can actually ask. So those are 2 things, those are 2 tricks I would recommend, or 2 good questions I would recommend in presenting that when you want to vet people on your team. It's just like a hiring process. Well, similar to a hiring process, not just like, but kind of similar, a lot of folks who interview, they ask for their professionalism, and they ask about, do you have experience? But they never ask about expertise. There's a big difference there. You might be, you could probably discuss, I know Charles is in the engineering field. You can probably, someone can sit with Charles in an interview process and say, I know exactly the weight load for a bridge using a certain type of concrete. All right, well, now that's your education. All right, cool. You know your stuff. But now, when you built that bridge and the weight was off, or the center of gravity was off, how did you fix it? Now that's expertise. Charles can probably tell you exactly how to do it because he's probably done it before. Now I have to hear, did you demolish the bridge? Did you go back? Did you test something? That's expertise. So was that helpful, Katina? Or everyone, was that helpful?
I think so.
Cool.
So something else that you and I have talked about in exiting your business is that sometimes businesses actually do fail. And the importance of cleaning up the mess when you're dissolving your business so you can launch a new one. So if you could dive into, what follows your name, like the Maryland Business Express, not paying. I don't want to. You go ahead and explain the importance of cleaning up your mess.
Hopefully there is no mess, because
Mhm.
everyone here, I'm sure, is running their business tip top. However, you sometimes have issues. Obviously, this is real world stuff, and you're going to have issues. So you certainly, to avoid, and again, this goes back to, this is a risk question. So to avoid those messes, so you definitely, every year we have to file taxes. The business taxes, I think taxes were actually, we were given an extension this year, if I'm not mistaken. I think till May 15th, I think it was. But when you file your taxes, you certainly between the beginning of the year and the time you file taxes, that's always a good time period to kind of take a step back and look at all your books, look at all your overhead, look at the previous years, you look at your financials, because you're presenting that to your tax preparer, hopefully, and your CPA. So you certainly want to look for those things. Look at your licenses, when they do expire, look at your certifications, are they coming up? You may want to do a self audit, have depending on the size of your company, you definitely want to have someone do an audit of your company, and I would recommend doing these things at least once a year, just looking at these things. And then at some point in time, if you're getting ready to exit your company like Katina is, you may want to start asking those questions. Let's go back and take a look at the filing of things and just look through the licensings, for example. Any outstanding bills. So that's where the audit will help, because you don't want something sneaking up on you. For example, on a very personal story, I had a friend of mine that we graduated from college in our undergrad, and they were not allowed to graduate because in their freshman year, they turned in a book. They didn't turn in a library book. So they weren't, Charles is shaking his head. Yeah, you hear stories like this. So you're like, wait a minute, I just applied for graduation. What do you mean I can't graduate because I did not, in my freshman or sophomore year, I didn't return the book. So they had to do an audit. They had to find, it's the same thing in business. It's the exact same process. Do the audit, find out what it is, but then build those controls in your risk assessment for your business, the what if scenario. Again, your exit strategy. What if I have to sell this? List your risks. And that's actually a good risk, Pauline, that you mentioned, is if I sell my business, is there something out there that I don't know? Because we don't know what we don't know. So go ahead and just do an audit and find out these questions. Are my books balancing? Is there anything outstanding? Things like that. Who owns your social media? How are you going to handle that? Who owns your website? How are you going to handle shutting that down? Are you going to convert your website? Things like that. Your subscriptions, how are those going to be renewed? Little things like that, they come back to bite you. So you definitely want to be sure that those things are covered.
Yes,
Did that
people
help?
always, oh, sorry, go on.
No, did that help? Did I answer your question?
It definitely answered the one that I wanted you to touch on. And as far as exiting and having everything cleaned up, I think people always remember how you enter a room and how you exit a room. So again, the exiting is so important. Again, whether you're retiring, selling your business, or just dissolving it.
Yeah, that's so important. That's so important. I like that analogy. It's a great image, where how you enter the room with a bang. You definitely want to, and it's up to the individual, really. It's how you want to exit. Do you want to exit quietly? Do you want to exit with a bang? It depends on your personality and in those senses. Yeah. Do you want to exit with a legacy? So do you build your legacy from now? Start building your legacy from now. Some people just go ahead and again, here's something that we talked about in previous webinars, in the business planning, I think, webinar. We talked about building your legacy, and then is your business willable? Could you hand it over to your kids, or maybe your niece or your nephew? Could you do that? That's a business law question. Now, some people might say it's not willable, but could you train someone to come into your company, for example? Again, that goes into your hiring process. That goes into the intent and intentionality of what you're doing for your company. So you certainly want to do these things with intentionality. You don't want to be haphazard with it. You don't want to be coming out of left field with it. But you certainly want to be planning for these things, and you certainly want to give it a lot of thought. And I'll tell you right now, a lot of the small business owners that I work with, I start asking these basic questions, like the vetting question. I start asking similar questions in terms of exiting. So, and they never think of it. Nothing wrong with that. It's actually good it's really good because now it's like, now they're open to like, oh yeah, I never thought about that. 10 years from now, what's my 10-year plan? Yeah, that's an interesting question. So now we build their business towards that 10-year goal. And then from, in year 8, it's like, okay, let's look at the next 10 years. Because it takes about a good maybe year to build a 10-year plan, So that's a great way to look at it, Pauline. It's how you enter and how you exit.
Mhm. And I know as far as business planning goes with the chamber, we look between 5 and 10 years as we are asking people to come onto the board, because each president is spending a year in exiting. We have a lot of exiting going on. So it is, you're right, it is a 10-year plan.
Yep.
So,
Yep. So are there any questions, any comments?
okay, well, if you want to do your
My little exit thingy? Sure. We can exit gracefully right now. How about that? All right, so I'm going to share my screen again. And hopefully, here we go. Alrighty, let's see. So we talked about this. We talked about the exit tactics. Yep. We talked about the questions. This is just my contact information. So if you ever want to connect with me on LinkedIn or email me, just please go ahead and just connect, and I'll be more than happy to connect with you. So with that, we're wrapping up this series next week. March 25th is the last session for this section of the BUI Business Resiliency and Webinar Education series. And write this date down. The new series starts April 15th. How timely, April 15th. And we did it on purpose because April 15th is when you should have filed your taxes. You come back to the webinar, no stress, all relaxed, and you're ready to build your business, for the second, going into the third quarter of this year. So next week, what we're going to be talking about is wrapping everything up. I'm going to be talking about everything from the very first webinar, how we interlock everything in a planning perspective, right? Where you are now. And again, it's going to be a session like this where we do an interactive session, a lot of Q&A and a lot of interaction. And I'm also going to do, and again, remember on July 15th, and eventually Pauline will send out this email to all the attendees to sign up for the pitch competition. I'm also going to do a quick training on how to do a pitch, how to do your pitch, how to be effective, how to go over your ask, and so maybe a few tips and tricks in presenting your pitch to the group on July 15th. Because on July 15th, that's all we're going to do is the final webinar series of the series. We'll do a pitch. We'll vote on the top 3 individuals or top 3 pitches, and then the top 3 will get the top 3 winners will receive prizes. So I look forward to having everyone back next week, and then everyone back on April 15th. And then we want to see people sign up for this pitch competition. And then we'll be going over some of the logistics next week of that pitch competition. So I think, being in business, it's a lot of serious work. It's a lot of lonely times, a lot of amazing, fun, winnable times. I love those times. Those times happen a lot. And this is the fun part about it. So that we definitely want to make this as fun as possible. And we definitely want everyone to come back and enjoy what we're enjoying. So with that, I'll exit and I'll turn it over to Pauline.
Okay. Really enjoyed this evening. So again, thank you for joining us today. Please take a moment and answer the exit poll questions. And thank you, William, in 1917 for joining us and putting all these webinars together. I really look forward to next week. And again, now more than ever, we do need our business plans. So again, thank you. And thank you for answering the poll question.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thanks, Charles. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Remy. Thank you, Katina.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.